Okay, in the last video you saw how to run this one sample t-test in order to discover that it's quite likely that Canadians watch less television per week than Americans. But the next step is to get a clearer estimate of just how much television Canadians watch in a given week. To do that, we need to build a confidence interval around this average that we got from our sample up here of 15 Canadians. And in order to do that, I need to begin by generating some descriptive statistics for the number of hours our Canadians said they had spent watching television. Let's click on the Data tab if you haven't clicked on it already. Here we're already here because we just ran that earlier analysis. But click on the Data tab and then choose Data Analysis again. And scroll up a little bit until you see something called Descriptive Statistics right here. Highlight that and click OK. And up comes another one of those dialog boxes. And all we need to do here is specify the input range. Again, I'm going to click on the little spreadsheet icon and then highlight the range of data I want to deal with. And in this case, it's the data pertaining to the sample of Canadians. Click the red X to continue. I need to tell Excel that there are labels in the first row of what I highlighted, so that's checked. And again, I'm going to choose an output range that is here on the same page as the actual data. So I'm going to click the Output Range Radio button, click the spreadsheet icon next to the box, and scroll down a little bit here. I'm going to put this output right underneath the t-test table. So I'm going to choose cell A32 here. Just click on that, and then click the red X. And finally, I need to tell Excel exactly what statistics I want it to compute. I want all the summary statistics, so I'm going to choose that box. And I also want this confidence level for the mean, so I'm going to click that box as well. And I don't need these other things, at least for this analysis, so I'm going to just leave those blank. All right, time to click OK. And when we do, we get some statistics down here. We have the average, we've already seen that, 14.5, and some other things, standard error, mode, and these are basically measures of central tendency, something we'll cover in class. But the only two numbers you really need for this particular procedure are these two, the average and this thing called the confidence level. All right, so to find out how much television Canadians typically watch in a given week, we kind of need to know what's the maximum amount of television we would expect them to watch on average given the data that we see in our sample. So what's the upper limit of that confidence interval? And what's the lower limit? What's kind of the least amount of television we would expect them on average to watch each week given what we have in our sample there? And to get these two figures, all you need to do is write a pretty easy Excel formula that subtracts, well, in the case of the upper limit, that adds this confidence level to the average up here. Adds these two numbers together. That'll give us the upper end of the confidence interval. And the lower end you can get by simply subtracting the confidence level here from the average up here. Here's how to do that in Excel. You need to write a formula that just tells the Excel to take whatever's here and subtract it from what's here, or add it in the case of the upper limit. Let's start with the upper cell right here. Anytime you write a formula in Excel, you start with an equal sign. So I'm going to press equal on the keyboard. And then highlight the average here, the 14.53. Just click on that with the mouse. And then press the plus key on the keyboard. And then click on the confidence level right here. So you see what we're doing? We're telling Excel take whatever's in cell B34. That would be the average up here. And add to it whatever is in cell B47, the confidence level. Okay. Notice that Excel also puts starts writing that formula up here in the formula bar right there. Okay. All right. So when I'm done typing the formula, I just hit Enter, and Excel will make that computation, and it finds that the upper limit is about 30 hours, 20.98, and some more numbers. To get the lower limit, it's just the same procedure. You just use a minus instead of a plus. We start with an equal sign and take the average up here and then hit the minus on the keyboard. and have it subtract the confidence level here, and then press enter. Okay. All right, so here's what this means. Given a random sample of 15 Canadians who watch on average about 14.5 hours of television per week, that average that we saw a minute ago, given that you pulled a random sample out of the Canadian population and found that average, you could conclude with 95% certainty, okay, that all Canadians, if you interviewed every Canadian and asked them how much time they'd spent watching television last week, if you interviewed every Canadian and asked that question, you would get an average somewhere between about 21 hours a week and about 8 hours a week. Okay, so you've narrowed it down a good bit. Now you have a pretty good range, a pretty good estimate of about how much time Canadians spend watching television. If you wanted a more precise range, if you wanted, maybe a confidence interval that was only 5 or 6 hours wide, you could get it. You just need to interview more Canadians. That's all. We have 15, so the confidence interval ends up being pretty wide. But notice that it doesn't include the 28 that we know to be the average among all Americans. It's less than 28 hours a week. It's somewhere between 8 and about 21. All right, so that's how to compute a confidence interval in Microsoft Excel.